Ready? Yep. Okay. So in this project, I'm collaborating with Elisa Giaccardi and David Abbing, and we are working on this concept of embodied manifestos of human-AI partnership, which consists on the development of a method for exploring narratives and changing design approaches of AI. So the first question you may ask yourself is why focusing on a design method for exploring narratives when the overall theme of this initiative is how can we achieve and maintain meaningful human control over AI? Well, if we think about it, when we address this question, we implicitly introduce some of the most recurring elements of stories, such as characters. So we have a potential hero, which is us as designers and engineers. We have implicit dispatchers, which are the institutions who are calling for initiatives for developing responsible AI. And then we have a dragon, which is our very AI. It is not good or bad per se, but it can threaten our princess, which is humanity, society, the collectivity. So we need to keep it under control somehow. And then we have the most important storyline functions, which is a villainy, the potential lack of control, potential misuse and abuse of AI. So we are called on a mission to achieve and maintain meaningful human control. Yeah? So again, when we address this question, somehow we are implicitly claiming for a change in the narratives we address for designing AI. But alternative to what exactly? So as suggested a bit, as introduced a bit by Elisa, when we design, especially AI, we rely on theories and we may not be aware of them. So we make hypotheses, we set requirements, and then we develop, test, and we feedback with our results. What we are not aware of is that there are narratives who are affecting the way we understand technology and the way we think this should be designed, which is not a problem per se. But the thing is that, let's take an example, the museum robot example. So we can identify two dominant narratives surrounding robotics. One which is positive, which sees in robotics an opportunity for efficiency, better lifestyle, while on the other hand, we have a more negative view, which see robots as a threat for humans, especially in the logic of replacement. So if we are more closer to one or the other narrative, we may end up designing something very different. On the first case, we may end up designing a robot as a museum guide, while on the other end, we can end up designing a tool for museum guides, which are substantially different. Again, this is not a problem. These are just alternative approaches. The problems come when we move into the evaluation and we take out insights and we generate our body of knowledge based on the evaluations that are also affected by narratives. So in the first case, we may end up focusing on efficiency and naturalness and on how our robot is good in replacing the human museum guide, while on the second case, we may end up focusing on usability aspects and on how the robot is good in supporting the museum guide. So these two narratives are the results that we get are gonna feedback on our narratives, reinforcing them, and never encountering each other. So usually, who is in the first loop is not having a conversation with the second one, in most of cases, of course. So the aim of my project is explicitly exploring these narratives through the concept of embodied manifestos, with the final aim of changing our approach to AI, to the design of AI. And embodied manifestos are to be intended as artifacts, which are designed with the specific intent of translating and exemplifying abstract concepts related to narratives about AI. And you may wonder again, why artifacts exactly? Well, I'm coming from a faculty of industrial design. I have a background in design, and in my knowledge, artifacts are largely already used to critically address concepts and issues related to technology, both in research, so we can see how artifacts are used for reflecting on the very design activity, for establishing critical areas of concern, for advocating for research agendas and change in approaches, and for translating and communicating abstract concepts, which is everything that I'm willing to do. And again, also in design practice, we see how artifacts are being more and more used to explore some gray areas between dominant narratives, such as in this project from Dan and Ravi, robots are developed and designed as things that are smart, they are intelligent, they can perform very intelligent things, but then through the concept of neediness, they establish an interdependent relationship with humans. So through artifacts, these designers are reimagining the way we can establish relationship with robots. So, as I said, in design is already a common practice to use artifacts as a way to broaden our current narratives and to suggest counter-narratives. But in most of cases, these practices, these activities may be seen as more artistic interventions rather than rigorous research, also because the evaluation phase is as we intend when we design technological solutions, is often left out. And the kind of theories we generate are very often implicit. So my plan is to focus exactly on this last part, so trying to systematically prototype not one single alternative narrative, but a spectrum of narrative alternatives, and to compare them through systematic observation and comparison in the evaluation phase. In fact, artifacts enable me to create, experience, and observe these conceptual implications into practice, so that the outcomes and the insights that I can generate can inform an actual theory about designing AI. So these are just to give an idea of the possible next steps and the case studies that I want to address. I still need to decide. So one example might be focusing on smart home assistants and the narratives surrounding privacy, while another can be about service robots and the narratives regarding replacement, and another one autonomous driving and narratives about moral responsibility. But I'm still exploring the possibility, so if any of you have cases to suggest, you are very welcome to come talk to me. And to conclude, so my aim is to use embodied manifestos as generative research tools, which will enable to escape the trap of dominant narratives, will enable concrete experiences, both for us as designers, but also for the potential audience and users, and discussion about abstract concepts, and finally, for probing principles, values, and features that are worth addressing when designing AI. And overall, these embodied manifestos are a way for envisioning and exploring how we can ride our dragon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.